presentation to Mrs. Olga Bielkova, and then we'll continue. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this, from what it may look like a technical issue, but it has very serious and damaging implications for my own country, which is Ukraine. I'd like to start by quoting my president, Mr. Petro Poroshenko. He says, and I quote, "It, Nord Stream 2, poses an extremely great danger, not only for Ukraine, and not only financial one, but I would like to note, it is a geostrategic danger, and a danger to security as well." He said it in May 2018, as he was meeting with key leaders in Europe. Today we sit in Bundestag of Germany, which is one of the supporting countries for the project of Nord Stream 2. And I think it is important to remind ourselves that even Chancellor of this country, she acknowledges the potential big geopolitical implications for the whole region, not only for the countries involved, which are Russia, Germany, Ukraine, and some of the neighbors of Ukraine. Usually it is presented by the proponents of Nord Stream 2 as a very commercial project. However, Maroš Šefčovič, who is the European Commission's Vice President for Energy Matters, said recently, "I've never seen a commercial project so intensely debated at the highest levels of European politics. This project is really polarizing the EU." That's how we are, where we are right now. It is my job to advocate for the interests and of overall, interests of Ukrainian people and Ukraine as a state. So, of course, in my part, I will be speaking mainly of how Nord Stream 2 is impacting Ukraine. However, once again, the project has a broader regional security threat. For Ukraine, the transit, as of today, this is one of the key security measures against even further Russian aggression. The pipeline goes across the whole country. So when we look at our map and we see the pipeline, and we know that Europe depends on Russian gas coming to Europe, we understand that the leadership of the country which is exporting this gas has to include into their consideration that should the pipeline be non-existent and the other backup options are non-existent, they cannot get their revenues for the gas from Europe. Just in 2017, my country, Naftogaz, the state-owned company, which has an agreement with Gazprom for transit of the gas, we transported 93 BCM of gas, which was the highest number in the last 8 years, which is to prove that with the current capacity, and once again, the current capacity of the pipeline system is such, it's around 145 BCM. Even with the existing capacity, all the gas Europe needs can be transported without any additional cost. So we in Ukraine, we really don't understand why would we want to invest tens of billions into building a new gas pipeline which is going under the sea. So, but once again, as I said, for us, what we are concerned of right now is potential damage to our security system, to our ability to restrain aggressor from further attacks. And also, I'd like to note the financial side of the deal. As of now, Ukraine is getting, and Madam Spettiswood would correct me if I am wrong, something between $2 billion and $3 billion. It all depends, of course, on the volumes of the gas being transported. So, of course, this is for a country which is at war with Russia. It is a very serious consideration. It comes almost equal as our military budget. So we are concerned. We have, due reasons to be concerned. Some of my colleagues from the second committee today, they mentioned that some of the permits were issued. Yes, it is true. Some of the countries issued permits, but at the same time, let's say in Sweden, a few weeks ago, the permit was issued, and at the same time, leadership of the country started new military mission to test all the security issues. Why is that? Because if Nord Stream 2 being in place, it will, together with Nord Stream 1, they will transport, both lines will transport about 80% of overall demand in Europe of the gas being exported from Russia. Which means that these two pipelines, they become of extreme strategic importance to Russia. And of course they may demand on the grounds of the need for protection, as they were protecting people in my own country in Donetsk and Lugansk, they may demand protection of the pipeline over the Baltic Sea. So some of the countries in that region are strongly concerned about the potential implication of such geopolitical shift between the different pipelines. So very often we hear once again that the project is commercial. However, just the official information on the number of German politicians on all levels, including parliament, government, former politicians, and let me remind you, former Chancellor of this country, Chancellor Schröder, was advocating for the pipeline during his tenure as a chancellor, after it immediately, and now he sits on the board of Gazprom. And I think that's one of the evidences that this project is nothing but commercial. It is very much politically supported by some of the lobbyists, which prefer not to talk about this project vis-a-vis general public in this country and in any other countries. Right now, Ukraine is demanding the change of EU directive into EU legislation as a country which just passed major legislation demanding very painful reforms in energy in our own country. We comply with third energy package, and we demand that all countries which are transporting, producing and participating gas in European market, they to be in compliance with all the ideas of equal position which were transported in third energy package. So as we encourage states to debate this issue in European Parliament, we see how some countries abstract just the mere idea of the debate. So we clearly see that some politicians stand to lobby for the project and prefer to keep silent about all the nitty-gritty details about this project. Why is that? Because politicians will bear responsibility for their decision-making as they go along, these debates and their statements, and that's why we encourage. I travel a lot in my capacity as an MP. I travel from country to country, and I try to encourage politicians to make their statements. If they are in favor of Nord Stream 2, we will come back to them, as the threats will definitely come, as more politicians will be corrupted in Europe over the direct gas deals with Russia, as they will see, tremendous shift of power on energy market, because let's face reality, 80% of overall gas coming to Europe will be coming through one particular country, and this country will have a strategic dominance over other countries in the region. That's why, to no surprise, Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Bulgaria, they all have their own concerns because they are not sure how they will be getting their gas after Nord Stream 2 will be built. My final comment will be towards one of the recent statements made by Chancellor Merkel, who said recently, and I quote, "In our view, the Nord Stream 2 project is not possible without clarity of how Ukraine's transit role will continue. From this, you can already see that this is not just an economic project, but that, of course, political factors must also be taken into account." And I do appreciate Chancellor Merkel's role in helping Ukraine to overcome our crisis, war with Russia. She is an active advocate of Minsk agreement and other agreements we have in order to bring peace to my country. However, I would like to comment that Ukraine is very reluctant to believe in any possible paper guarantees which might be offered by Russia. We already have Budapest agreement, we already have Minsk agreement, and we have sort of like calculator, we can calculate with the Nord Stream 2 in place and Turkish Stream being in place, Ukraine is left with, I don't know, 10 BCM of gas potentially transported through Ukraine. We are very aware of the prognosis about the demand in Europe, and we know that there is no such a huge increase of demand on European side to compensate for the new pipeline. So we are not gonna keep the system running if it's just about 10, 15, 30 BCM of gas being transported. The system is so complex. It was built by Soviets, so meaning like very reliable, very sophisticated system. We will not sustain as a backup country for EU energy market. It is our political position to fight against Nord Stream 2. We will do it fiercely, and we will make sure that all our arguments are heard. That would be my comment.
Thank you, Olga. No questions? Yeah.
So, Joel Weger, the U.S. Embassy here in Berlin, and I think the U.S. opposition to Nord Stream 2 is very clearly on the record. But often in my meetings with Germans about Nord Stream 2, one of the issues they point to is something you alluded to about the reliability of the Ukrainian transit pipeline. And I wonder if you could go a little bit more detail about what's being done, what the status is now, and what's actually being done to improve that situation. Because often they cite it as the Ukrainian system is a threat to European security because of the reliability problem. So I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Okay, with pleasure. Actually, just a few months ago, we had a very high-level delegation from the OSCE's leadership, and I took them to UTG, which is Ukrtransgaz, a company which is transporting gas in Ukraine. I took them to the command center of that company, which is actually quite an unusual event to engage somebody who is a politician from another country. It's still under security protection. It's considered as critical infrastructure. But we are willingly share all the details about the condition of UTG's capacity as of now, because we have nothing to hide. As I said, just in the last years, we transported so much gas that Europe cannot complain. I was basically, when we engaged Claire to come here, I said to her, well, your goal is to inspire everybody in the room that whatever Europe needs, Ukraine can do it. And this is how it is right now. We have capacity of 145. Most of the pipes along the route they have backup options. We had a military explosion next to Donbass region. Europe didn't even know about it. Nobody noticed in Europe that we had an accident because we could easily switch from one pipeline to another because we have so many extra capacity. Once again, it was built by Soviets, At that time, everybody was like, doing it to the extreme. And right now, as Claire was saying, there are discussions about the need for additional investment. That's why Ukrainian political elite, including parliament, president, prime minister, everybody is now working on engaging strong, reliable EU or transatlantic partner to jointly operate the system. We're not talking about selling it. We are saying, if Europe has some concerns about reliability of the system, don't go with Nord Stream 2, come on consortium with us, manage it together with us. All we need from the pipeline, we need protection for, given our current security situation. We want it to run, according to EU standards. We will never interfere. We will never stop any supply to Europe. We are developing our own gas reserves, so we are working on our own gas resilience plan to make sure that our country is self-dependent in terms of gas supply for our own needs. We are working on energy efficiency issues. We really want to kind of make sure that Ukraine is not an obstacle between the transit between Russia and Europe, but we want to be included into this geopolitical issue, because gas pipelines are always geopolitical.
Yeah, if I can just add, I'm not sure of the long history of Naftogaz, but I'm not aware of any time that we've actually failed to deliver to Europe. And it just so happened my first ever visit to the control room at UGG, there had been an explosion on the European border which shut one of the export pipelines down completely. And I was there as they did the workaround. And again, nobody in Europe noticed. And it was actually quite a major disruption to services. Now, that happened on Nord Stream 2. There wouldn't be much resilience. But because we can divert through all the other pipelines, there is actually a lot of resilience. I think the danger is political, because if Russia cuts off all supplies through Ukraine, there's a problem. But if we've got the gas, I think there's no problem with the capacity, either the capacity or the resilience, or the strength of the system. So if anyone can point to any, I'd like to know about them, because then I should go back and investigate. But I'm not aware of any, ever. So people should just give some facts, I think.
Thank you. Some other questions? If not, I will thank... please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Paul Massara. I work for the U.S. Congress. Good to see my state colleague here. My question is, what are the concrete measures that need to be taken to stop Nord Stream 2, and sort of where is the finish line for you all? Like, I mean, at what point would you say the project's over, it's done with, it's been, beat, don't need to worry about it anymore? Also, how far along is it already?
I'd say it's not done until it's done, meaning the pipeline should go from point A to B, and until then we will resist. And concrete measures, as Madam Spettiswood said, even if it's built, it has to fully comply with the rules which are against monopolization of one route over another or one party over another, So this is why we are fighting to include amendments to EU directives. That's one measure. Well, one permission is still missing from Denmark. They have their own considerations of security measures and security situation. We expect that. Even if it's declined, then there is a need for designers of the project to go around Denmark, which will make it complex, and then we will remind everybody of the security reasons, because of the weaponry which is left from the World War II being on the ground of the sea. There are other issues, but I almost feel like not sharing right now, because I really think it's a geopolitical project where leaders have to agree what has to be done. So we do watch closely what is happening in your Congress. We see some initiatives being raised, bipartisan, initiatives in your Congress. We think that the history suggests that if your country is taking direct measures, be it sanctions or other types of influence over threats to stability and peace, that's helpful. That's very helpful. So we are working with all parties involved to encourage public debates. Even in this country, some of the ecological organizations now are protesting. They file court appeals to the project on the ground of the environmental suspections. So we watch closely what is happening. Our goal right now, as I said, is to raise public debates and make sure that everybody understands facts and truths about the potential implications.
Congressman, if I... Oh, okay.